What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Dricus Du Plessis gets called out by UFC fighter. Dricus Du Plessis has been keeping an eye out for verbal jabs from Israel Adesanya, but the UFC's middleweight champ recently came under serious fire from Abdul Razak Al Hassan. The feud between Du Plessis and Adesanya really kicked off after DDP claimed he's the real African champion since he still resides in Africa, and Adesanya lives in New Zealand. The comments prompted backlash from the last stylebender as well as others, and ultimately, the two have been booked to fight at UFC 305 next month. Al Hassan, meanwhile, is set to battle Cody Brundage this weekend at UFC Denver. When the Ghanaian fighter was asked to comment on DDP's previous statements about his championship and African status, Al Hassan let loose on the fighter.
I respect Dricus. I respect his the part of say he represents in Africa. Right? I respect the things he's done in MMA, but he's a asshole for that word that he used, right? If he's a real African and he lived in Africa, he would have never used that word. He's a chance to use that word, because an African, right? If he raised the poor people in Africa the way I was raised, the way I grew up, with how I go days without food. I have to see my friends eating, and I'll be like, hey bro, can you give me 1 teaspoon of your food so I can put in my mouth? That's how I'll survive for a few days until I can get money. If I can go to America, right, or can go to a different country to make a better life for myself, I'll cut out of my leg to go, right? If he's a true African, right, he would have understood that.
It'll certainly be interesting to see if Al Hassan's fiery words here get back to Du Plessis, and if the polarizing star responds. Now, if you're wondering if these two could fight at some juncture, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Al Hassan does compete at middleweight, but the powerful fighter has struggled to put wins together in more recent years, and Al Hassan could be in a must-win situation this weekend. In his last outing back in October 2023, he was choked out by Joe Pyfer in round 2. Up next, Paddy Pimblett reveals next move. The consensus seems to be that if Paddy Pimblett beats Bobby Green at UFC 304 this month, the baddie will move on to another scrap with a top 15 ranked lightweight. But recently, the Scouser revealed that a couple of things have to fall into place first. Before that happens, Pimblett has been booked to fight King Green in what will be his 6th UFC appearance. To date, the brash and charismatic fighter has gone 5-0 in the octagon, and many believe Pimblett could be headed to contender status. While talking with MMAJunkie.com recently, Pimblett was asked about his plans for the rest of 2024, post UFC 304, and he relayed he has Renato Moicano in his sights. But during the interview, Pimblett also revealed that his UFC 304 fight is the last on his UFC deal. When asked whether that could lead to his departure from the UFC, Pimblett made it clear he's hoping to re-sign with the promotion.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it goes without saying, I wouldn't want to go to a different organisation, lad. The UFC is the cream of the crop. It's the main, like, when you say to people that do MMA, most of them go, what's that? You know what I mean? Say, oh, UFC. People don't even know what MMA is, lads. They know what UFC is. You never know, though. Some of these stupid YouTubers who are boxing could end up offering me millions to fight one of them. So we'll see what happens.
We shall see what happens, indeed. Okay, now let's take a look at UFC Fight Updates. The UFC brass continues to book fights for its 3rd and 4th quarters of 2024. And recently, a big pivotal heavyweight scrap was added to the schedule. Yes, recently AG Fight was the first to report that former interim champ Ciryl Gane will take on former Bellator champion and longtime contender Alexander Volkov. The two have agreed to fight at the UFC's October 26 card in Abu Dhabi, which is also the rumored landing spot for Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan 2. It'll be interesting to see how Gane looks, as he has yet to compete since he put away Sergey Spivak in the 2nd round last September. And it looks like UFC 305 in Australia will feature New Zealand's Dan Hooker, as MMA Junkie's reporting that he'll be battling grappling wizard Mateusz Gamrot at the August 17th card. Earlier, we mentioned the UFC's upcoming card in Paris, and it's being reported that a bantamweight scrap, Daria Zelezniakova and Eileen Perez, is set for the event. And finally, Octagon Update recently reported that featherweights Isaac Dugarian and Brendan Marotte have agreed to throw hands at the UFC's September 7th card in Las Vegas. MMA community goes off on Sean O'Malley for winning ESPY. If you missed it, recently ESPN announced that Sean O'Malley has claimed the 2024 ESPY for Best MMA Fighter, and the announcement has received, well, mixed reviews. Now, before we dive into the reactions that Sugar's ESPY received, we should clarify that the award is supposed to factor in what transpired in 2023 as well. If you need a refresher, O'Malley took out Aljamain Sterling last August to win the bantamweight crown, and this past March, he recorded a decision win over Chito Vera. The other fighters up for the award were light heavyweight king Alex Pereira, lightweight champ Islam Makhachev, and strawweight champion Zhang Weili. So while some folks were happy to see O'Malley take the award, not surprisingly, not everyone was. Here was some of the reaction. And the winner goes to the nominee with the biggest social media following. Of the 4 nominees, this is the worst pick of the bunch. That's worse than some of the judging in MMA this year. Nothing against Sean, but why though? Should have been Alex or Islam at least. Pereira should have clearly been there, save 2 of the biggest pay-per-views this year. How out of touch is ESPN with the community? O'Malley needs to just give that award back. There's no way he can ever look at that award and not feel guilt. I like Sugar, but seems like he won it because he's the only American and has the biggest social media following. This is why nobody takes these awards seriously. It should have been Pereira. He was the best fighter by a significant margin. Like, it is even close. Yeah, now even if you want to argue that Pereira's KO loss to Israel Adesanya in April 2023 should put aside the historical 4-fight championship run he put together at light heavyweight, how do you dismiss what Makhachev did in 2023 and 2024? He defeated Alexander Volkanovski not once but twice, and most recently, he subbed another legend in Dustin Poirier. But what do you think? Should Sugar have taken the ESPY home? Okay, up next, Kamaru Usman doubles down on Alex Pereira comments. Recently, there's been plenty of talk about Alex Pereira becoming one of the biggest stars in all of combat sports, and his hope to add the UFC's heavyweight title to his already stuffed trophy case. But Kamaru Usman is standing by his assessment that while Poatan is ridiculously dangerous on the feet, the decorated fighter is not the planet's best pound-for-pound fighter. Pereira buzzed the MMA world yet again last month by bombing out Prohaska in round 2 and then repeating his desire for a heavyweight title fight. Due to what the decorated fighter has accomplished in such a short amount of time in the UFC, hardly a day goes by where Poatan isn't being discussed. Case in point, recently, Usman and Henry Cejudo talked about whether Pereira stands in the pound-for-pound rankings during their aptly named Pound for Pound podcast. Usman, however, made it clear he does not see Pereira at the top of the list.
But when we talk about pound for pound, Henry, let's not forget pound for pound is a hypothetical. That means that do you possess the highest level of striking, of wrestling, of kickboxing, of grappling, of jiu-jitsu? Like, that's what that means. So which means if you were to put in flyweight, or if you would put in welterweight, or if you would put in heavyweight, your style will transfer all throughout those divisions and you will be able to be victorious and still be number 1. That's all that means. Yes, you can stand and knock everybody out, guys who aren't moving, guys who aren't shooting on you, guys who aren't testing your grappling. Yes, but that doesn't mean you're number 1, you pound for pound. So don't be upset about that. Don't be butthurt about it. If anything, show me your pound for pound. Go out there, take the next guy down, to get on top, full mount, switch up, armbar on top. That let me know, oh, okay.
There you have it. Here were some of the responses Usman's take received. Salty wrestler take, LMAO. Don't agree with Pereira being top of the list, but also don't agree with Usman asking him to prove it. Pereira way more active than any other champ, always steps up and finishes fights. He's never faced a grappler. Let's see Pereira against Ankalaev. I'm not a diehard fan of Pereira, but it's hard to deny because he doesn't take anybody down. He's literally knocked out all the best contenders. If you're finishing that level of competition nearly every time, you should be up there. So what do you think? Has Pereira truly been vetted so far at 205, whereby we can say he's one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the galaxy? Chael Sonnen slams Daniel Cormier for comments. Although all signs currently point to Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic fighting later this year, Daniel Cormier believes that Tom Aspinall could punt those plans if he scores a jaw-dropping win at UFC 304. Well, recently, Chael Sonnen weighed in on Cormier's take, and the American gangster made it clear he thinks his co-host is way off. As you likely know, Aspinall is scheduled to fight Curtis Blades on July 27th. Since Aspinall is widely considered to be one of the fastest rising commodities in the game, and because he holds the interim heavyweight title, plenty of people have argued he, and not Miocic, should be next for the champ, Jones. But UFC boss man Dana White, as well as Bones, have repeatedly said they are focused on the Jones-Miocic fight. As a result, Sonnen recently took a few pokes at Cormier's take on the situation via his own YouTube channel.
Is he drunk? No. Did he hurt his head? Did he fall off a ladder or something? Something like this that could be concerning? No, he didn't. Is he working on a comedy routine? He's not. Well, I asked because he thinks that Tom Aspinall, with a proper victory, could take Stipe's fight against John Jones away. He can't be serious. All right, you know what, guys? I gotta tell you. He can't be serious, right? I'm assuming you guys have seen the headline from Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier put out a piece, and he said with the proper performance, right? I mean, it's got to be it's got to be an absolute drubbing. I think that might have been the word he used. It was some word that I don't ever use, but it means a whipping. It means that Aspinall's got to go out there in front of his people. He's got to whip Curtis Blades. And there could be such an uprising by you, the crowd. UFC would have no choice. Give Tom the fight. There's no way he believes that, right?
All the jokes from Sonnen aside here, it does seem pretty unlikely the UFC would shift gears at this juncture, even if Aspinall scores a jaw-dropping win over Blades. Jones and Miocic were supposed to fight last November, until Bones was sidelined with a pectoral injury. But I guess you just never know, right? Okay, now let's jump to Alex Pereira responds to Magomed Ankalaev. Earlier, we talked about Alex Pereira's desire to fight for the UFC's heavyweight title, but for reasons we also just discussed regarding Jones versus Miocic and Aspinall versus Blades, the chances of that happening anytime soon seem slim. As a result, most people believe that Magomed Ankalaev will be the next man to challenge for the light heavyweight crown. After all, he hasn't lost a fight since 2018, and he's also been firing plenty of verbal jabs at Poatan. Recently, he even claimed that he can best the feared slugger on the feet. So in a recent video response Pereira's camp released, the champ made it clear he's down to fight Ankalaev. Poatan also relayed in Portuguese that he's confident his wrestling and jiu-jitsu is up for the task against the grappling machine. My focus is to defend my belt. A lot of people are talking about Ankalaev. People are focused on him. It's a good fight for me. I'll be well prepared for him, for anyone. When I come back, it won't be now. I want to rest a little, but I think December would be a good date for me, November or December. You guys saw a lot of people trying to self-promote, trying to belittle me, saying they will knock me out, finish me, but I'm training, evolving. I just started evolving now, that's the difference. I was able to go toe-to-toe with just kickboxing. Now I'm evolving, so each fight is getting harder for them. What do you think? Will Ankalaev be the one to end Pereira's reign as the 205 champ?
The MMA community reacts to Leon Edwards' insane body transformation ahead of his fight at UFC 304. Leon shared a picture of himself shirtless next to a guy at his boxing gym, and he looks to be in peak physical shape. Here's what the MMA community had to say. With quads like that, I don't know how he didn't kick Usman's head off his fucking body. Yo, Leon looks good. Incredible physique. Honestly, one of the best I have ever seen on a human. Jamaican genetics. Aljo has similar aesthetics. Someone replied saying, "You ain't wrong, chief." And another fan replied saying, "Technically, it's West African genetics, but I get it. Dude looks insane." Someone else replied saying, "He's a specimen. Holy f."